my life ended.
Another mother whose life was changed by Dr. Southall's medical intervention.
My world was destroyed.
You're not having one yourself?
I'm going to have a can of Coke. You can have a cold drink if you want.
No.
I'm actually addicted to Coke. Drinking Coke, by the way.
Justine Feder told me her baby Rosie was also born with alarming breathing problems.
I was scared she was going to die in her sleep. I was scared of her being asleep. I used to look at her and think, how can you look so perfect and healthy and possibly have something really, really wrong with you? In my mindset, whatever the doctors had to do had to be done. I truly believe that they were the be-all and the end-all of everything that needed to be put right should there been anything wrong.
Dr. Southall's team ran a series of tests and came to the conclusion the problem wasn't the child, it was the mother.
These two social workers came in and he said, I've received a statement from Southall saying that he has irrefutable proof that you suffer from Munchausen syndrome by proxy. To which I sat and went, what's that?
Justine was told her daughter was in danger of dying and her breathing must be closely monitored. However, doctors privately suspected Justine was smothering Rosie, and they were placed in a hospital cubicle with hidden cameras. They spent 5 days and nights in this cubicle, with 2-year-old Rosie permanently attached to numerous monitoring sensors.
Have you any idea what it's like to be put into a goldfish bowl and have everything you say analysed? I was sat on the bed and there was this big monitor at the end of the bed, and to have it explained that Rosie would have to be on this monitor 24 hours a day. I can't watch Thomas the Tank Engine to this day because that was all we had to watch over and over and over again. Trying to keep her amused, trying to interact with her, and trust me, I got thoroughly naffed off sometimes, really, really naffed off. So did she.
Dr. Southall's team found no evidence of smothering, but at one point, Justine lost her temper and slapped Rosie in the face, something that was later used in court against her.
Southall had written down that I'd punched her in the face. And on video it looks horrific because we're both really stressed out. I think I was crying at the time as well, through sheer frustration. Went like that with my hand, and I must have caught under her chin, and she sat there for a good few seconds and she went, and then she started screaming the place down.
Despite having the backing of 2 medical experts in court, Justine lost custody of both her children. When did you get your kids back then, or how did that work?
Rosie came back to me when she was 12.
12? My God.
When she was old enough to make her own mind up.
I didn't realise it was that long. Do you feel guilty still?
Yeah. Yeah. You see, now I question myself as to what mother would let their child go through 5-6 days of being on a bed, not able to do anything, not be the norm, not play properly. What mother does that? To me, that was tantamount to child abuse. Because that's not normal for a 2-year-old.
Okay, that's enough, I think. Enough.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cool.
How did I cope? Oh, at least I didn't break down completely. It's
okay?
a practice, yeah, I'm alright. No.
When news got out that patients were being secretly filmed, covert video surveillance was abandoned by the hospital.
4 hidden cameras, 1 in each corner.
Surrounding controversy also fueled a growing campaign against David, led by parents who claimed they were falsely accused. This campaign went on to pursue him relentlessly, leading to multiple complaints against him. After a series of high-profile hearings, David was finally banned from being a practicing doctor by the General Medical Council.
I've often had to make difficult and sometimes unpopular decisions, but the welfare of the children has always been paramount.
There's a strong sense amongst paediatricians that the top man, the man who had published some of the best research in this area, had been targeted and had been systematically defamed.
The only way they could see to free themselves from this constant money-wasting, time-wasting activity was to get rid of me.
Before he was struck off the medical register, David Southall said he had 47 separate cases against him. So far, the Medical Defence Union has spent £750,000 defending him, and they continue to back him.
Every time that a paediatrician involved in child protection produces evidence that ends up with a conviction, either in the criminal court or a child is taken into care, you have arranged in front of you a bunch of enemies. Serious enemies. These are not minor issues you're doing. You're not upsetting the neighbours. This is, somebody could go to jail, somebody could lose their children forever on the basis of something that you've contributed to. The more you do, and I did about 120 cases, the more there is a build-up of people who do not like you and who have reasons to be against you.
Penny Mellor is considered David Southall's most lethal enemy. Although she was never accused of abuse by him, she's the main organiser of the campaign against him.
No.
Penny acts as unpaid legal advisor, advocate and informal press officer for parents she believes have been falsely accused of abuse.
The GMC lied to her, yeah. But they couldn't have got over it.
A self-proclaimed extremist, she believes the results justify the means.
I was told right from the go-get, I could not change the system. Right. I couldn't do it individually, but what I could do was get cases and use those cases and then publicise those cases to get that to change the system. Cause public outrage. And that changes the system. And that's what I did. I fed the media story after story out. That's why journalists ring me all the time. I feed them. Yeah? Well, let me tell you, I would have warned you if I thought for one moment they would have come to you.
Penny's activism has wreaked havoc in the lives of many, including her own.
This is your hospital, everybody! Come on! They're killing children!
She was sentenced to 2 years in prison for a conspiracy to abduct a child. And it was Dr. Southall who tipped off the police.
Is that hard?
Since coming out of prison, she stopped doing street protests and concentrates on bombarding government bodies with legal challenges and complaints.
So how many people do you advocate for or represent, would you say?
Very few now.
How many?
I suppose, let me see, 30, around 30 families, all of whom I know personally, all of whom I've had a lot of interaction with, all of whom I've met, all of whom I can...
You know they didn't do the things that they've been accused of doing.
How does anybody know?
How do you know?
I don't know.
So it's possible that they could have done the things.
It is possible they could have done it, but the evidence doesn't support it, one, and two, again it goes to a gut feeling about that person and who they are and how they are. I can't afford to get this wrong. If I'm going to, say, latch on to a case which I feel is particularly important in terms of showing the courts or whatever that something went drastically wrong in the diagnostics way back at the beginning, I can't afford to choose somebody that ultimately may have harmed a child.
David insisted I would never get a clear picture of what was really going on, because the professionals involved are legally forbidden from discussing any cases.
The journalists cannot go to the family court or to the paediatrician involved or the expert or the guardian or the social worker and say, now you tell me your side of that story. because they cannot speak about
But
it.
if I can get access to court records, transcripts, case copies, that will give me a side, right?
Of course it would, but you can't.
Well, if I can.
I don't think you will, unless, of course, the parents give them to you.
Right, well, if the parents give them to me.
If the parents give them to you, they are also in contempt of court.
I thought David was trying to warn me off, but I was now hearing from a growing list of accused parents, each with their own disturbing and compelling account of what happened with Dr. Southall.
We are so glad that we came here because Lawrence had such freedom here.
One mother, Janet Alexander, told me she was accused of deliberately poisoning her only child, Lawrence, an accusation that plagues her to this day.
I'm never quite sure how people see me because I think the pain shows. You know, because I kind of... It's the brand on the forehead, do you know what I mean? Because it's still quite raw. It's 20 years ago, but it's quite raw. It's never been dealt with. So I wrote in my diary just before Christmas, this is not my life. And this isn't my life.
Good ones at Brighton and here somewhere.
Janet struggled for many years to conceive, and she and her husband were overjoyed when Lawrence was born.
It's me and Dad's.
She told me their delight turned to terror when, as a baby, Lawrence started turning blue and stopped breathing. Doctors couldn't explain what was happening to Lawrence, and suspicion started to fall onto Janet.
And there was this insinuation that actually we were kind of imagining what was wrong with Lawrence, you know. So he was having these things, so there's nothing to worry about. So, and we're saying, but what are you talking about? You know, he's been resuscitated, he's been seen to be close to death. What are you talking about?
Lawrence was thought to be at risk, and due to the growing suspicion, legal proceedings were brought to put the family under supervision. Janet and her husband successfully defended themselves in court, and the case was dismissed.
I mean, the easiest thing for everybody.
The family moved away and tried to start a new life, but the damning allegations stayed in Lawrence's medical records. Janet told me that it leaked into her new community that they were poisoners.
Initially we got a lovely warm response here, and then people started saying things to us. I mean, certainly the school were told we were poisoners because suddenly they wouldn't let me help with the children's kindergarten lunches. Whereas before we'd been allowed to run the school library and, you know, we went in and sat on classes, suddenly we weren't allowed in the school. And Lawrence had to be walked to his classroom by another teacher. We've both spoken to Samaritans, haven't we? Although we've never talked about it, have we?
Janet has never recovered from the trauma of these events.
We don't trust anybody. We're fairly reclusive. We have some close friends. We are not part of this society. We are not welcome in this society. We live on the periphery. We're not required, yeah.
Why would Janet spend 20 years of her life trying to clear her name if she wasn't falsely accused?
Revenge. They see one of the people involved in interfering with their actions in difficulties, in trouble, and also vulnerable because of the position that the family court and contempt of court laws quite rightly place them in.
Right.
And the fact that the media, and I have to bring this up, the media generally feel that what matters is the sensationalism of the story. That's what sells, rather than the truth.